Kind of like it was with Carl Froch and George Groves in their rematch. I kind of felt here that the knockout saved the event. Everybody's going to remember that peach of an uppercut in what was otherwise a pretty disappointing main event. I think most of the blame has to go on Dillian Whyte. Why wasn't he super light for this fight? What were with his tactics, starting southpaw? Classic just spook tactics, because I don't really know what to do. He was reacting to every single Tyson Fury feint. He didn't know whether to box or to attack. Really lost at sea. I've always been a critic of his in terms of just basic fundamentals. The balance, the footwork, it's so poor. Very game, good power, but in terms of just world-level boxing, man, there's so much missing. And Fury wins without having to shift out a second gear. It turned out to be a lot easier than I thought most people were thinking. I saw a lot of people picking Whyte, some people talking about they had a feeling, and I think that was just purely down to statistics. People thought Tyson Fury was due an off night, because I didn't hear any real breakdowns of how Whyte was going to win. Fury was going to have to put himself in a silly position to get caught with that hook. There was one moment in the fight where Whyte threw the hook and it almost landed, but he was easily read, easily outboxed, and easily dealt with. And I understand while the wound is still open and raw, your ego is in damage control and you're going to say certain things. I think he kind of knows he put there a pretty bad performance in. If you put in a great performance, you give everything, and you're knocked out, it's probably easier to digest. But deep down, Whyte probably knows that was poor, perhaps even by his own standards. And so we're getting little comments now like, oh, it was partly the push. You know, it's wrestling, it's not boxing. You got to kind of forgive him for that stuff because, again, the wound is still raw. He's having to try and rationalise what's just happened for what is going to be the biggest moment in his boxing career. Did it kind of flatter Tyson Fury? Is Dillian Whyte just totally made for him? We know he's definitely designed to take uppercuts because the man cannot get out of the way of them. It's almost like he has a blind spot for the shot. I mean, just before he got knocked out, he's just walking forward with no head movement. And he said in that interview with Sky how he was trying to jab with Fury, but I really didn't see any of that. And of course, if you can't take accountability for the flaws you have, you're never going to evolve. The whole still learning narrative at 33, 34, it doesn't wash. Whether it's just bad biomechanics, he stayed doing kickboxing too long, the way he moves his feet, it's like he's already taken a shot and he's trying to walk off the fact he's hurt. He's always got these stiff legs, they're too straight, very odd to watch. But Fury did what he had to do. He was tactically very savvy. I thought he perhaps might try and put it on him more in the clinches with the uppercuts, but he didn't want to risk anything at all. It was just boxing from the outside, shut him down, and it was the first time he threw the uppercut that he landed it. In terms of buttering up the right shot, that was really nicely done. And it was good to see him take instruction from Sugar Hill in the corner and then apply it in the following 3 minutes. He was telling the big man to jab, then a right to the body, then jab here. There was one moment where Fury actually switched as he punched. Then he threw a little left jab. There was a little wry smile at Whyte. It's just like, I've got so much more natural ability than you here. It's not just the size differential. And in all honesty, when the fight started, one of my immediate observations was, wow, Whyte's not that much smaller, is he? He's not exactly small at 6'4" and with that wingspan. It wasn't really to do with size. A lot of this just had to do with skill and a lack thereof in Dillian Whyte. I'm not completely sure of where Whyte goes now. He's definitely not going to get a shot on that kind of stage again. That's it. He was offered that rematch against Joshua. It looked like he said no. He got one against Fury, and he was easily dealt with. I wouldn't actually mind to see the rematch with Joseph Parker, regardless of what happens with Parker and Joe Joyce, a fight that looks like it's going to happen this July. I like the way their styles match up, and I would like to see Parker get revenge for a fight I felt he should have won, because he's the man with more natural ability. For Tyson Fury, just looking back at his performance there, I don't think he necessarily looked incredible. The tactics were spot on, And hey, maybe he was just able to casually defeat Dillian Whyte, and that's enough. But he wasn't particularly fast. I thought the work rate might have been a little bit better. He is 33 going on 34. He has done a lot of partying. You can't just wipe that from your biological clock. Coming up to your mid-30s, you naturally start to slow down. There really isn't that much time for this heavyweight era to properly conclude. We need the winner of Joshua and Usyk. We need them to fight Fury. We need to get somebody who we can definitely say was the best of this era. And with the fact that Usyk as well is 35, we need to get a move on. It's the same old story. I do find it kind of interesting to note, though, that while right now Tyson Fury is riding an incredible crest in his career, he's got options, he's the man. At the very least, he is the best British heavyweight in the world. Most people see him as number one, and Usyk has to prove otherwise. But for some reason, perhaps it's just the AJ marketing, he doesn't still almost have that glitz that AJ did in 2016, in 2017. Maybe it's just the fact he doesn't have a six-pack. I'm not sure, but it's like Fury has had to really fight his way into, I think, this full acceptance by the British public. People love his comeback story, the fights with depression. But if you just talk about that certain je ne sais quoi, it's like there's a lot to be said for marketing and aesthetics. And it would really help now, the position Fury's in, if he were active, if he started racking up defences, which is what you need to do if you're going to be remembered as a great, great heavyweight. There probably isn't the time, there isn't the organisational ability to allow for that kind of activity. But it only feels that right now, while Fury is being fully embraced as the man, no dispute, he's already talking about, fully slowing down. We might get one or two fights here. This is the time to really twist the knife in the historical book, so to speak. Take on other guys, rack up the defences, keep beating your chest and telling us you're the Gypsy King, and we might start bumping you high up that all-time list.